Well, good morning. Look who it is.
Morning. How was your vacation with your
It
lovely wife?
was great. It was awesome. Of course, we always wish it was longer, but it was the perfect getaway from everything.
All right.
I mean, I could easily do an entire video on why cruising is the best type of vacation, but I don't know how I can connect that to a Christian element.
You know, you probably could if you're
I mean,
creative.
I'm sure I could. I could give me 24 hours. I'm sure I'll find a connection. Well, let's let people come on in. Joel,
But
how has your week been overall?
well, not bad. Speaking of vacations, my wife and I were camping on the beach out here in California for the
Oh,
last 3 days. Yeah,
wow.
and then yeah, you go, you relax on the beach for 3 days, get nice, and you know, and then you drive back down San Diego through LA traffic, and you're completely stressed out by the time you get home. All your
Yep. That was me in Atlanta. We were flying back. We had a layover in Atlanta, and I started checking my emails because I was on the clock. And everything I had planned, everything I had set up to happen when I was gone, none of it happened. Like everything got delayed or postponed. And I'm like,
yeah.
so yeah, that was fun.
Lucas is driving.
Good morning, Lucas. Be safe as always.
I don't know how British Columbia traffic is, but so
I've always wondered about that. Like I already know like the costs of things in Canada are high, but I was always curious on traffic patterns in Canada. I know it's a very niche topic, but
yes, very.
okay. So yeah, what we'll do, we'll go and get started. So Joel, we'll start this with a question.
Okay.
If you were to talk about the beauty of the gospel in film, like in a movie, in your mind, what's the best way to do that? Is it to just make it like a documentary and just put it out there? Here's the gospel, take it or leave it. Or do you show it through art, through creativity, through a story, through characters, through a plot? Which one of those do you think is the best way to do it?
Well, I mean, good. There's surprisingly, and this kind of goes against the theme of our show, but there is a good argument to be made to just present the gospel straight because the gospel has power, right?
Mhm.
And but unfortunately, it's hard to do and not make it cringy with bad acting and bad writing, and but at least it's plain,
Mhm.
right? But if you do it with creativity and art, yeah, it'll be well done. But does everybody get the point?
Right,
So you
right,
know,
right, exactly.
Lord of the Rings is very much a Christian allegory, but can you get past the orcs being you know mean and ugly, and it's just and the hobbits being cute? It's just how do you effectively do that with an audience that maybe is not tuned in? So
Right, right, exactly. And this is an odd topic. It's odd because on one hand, you would think if you have a movie that blatantly talks about the gospel, clear as day, you think it would be great. You think it would do really well. You think more people would want to see it and it would be a good movie. But let's be honest, there's so many Christian movies out there that are just horrible.
horrible.
Not because the gospel's bad, but because the way it was made is just so cringy.
Yeah, they're
But then
glorified.
again,
Yeah, they're Christianized Hallmark specials is what they are.
right, right. But then again, you have movies like Lord of the Rings that don't talk about the gospel at all. And yet you have a lot of Christian themes in it. So you have two
Yeah.
opposite spectrums. But I argue there are some Christian movies that are in the middle. that do blatantly, clear as day, talk about the gospel, like verbatim, but they do it in such a good way that's actually a good movie. It's a story you want to watch that's actually impactful, that stays with you. And so today I figured we could dive into that together. We'll start with a little intro video here just to get us all on the same page, and then go from there.
Think about the movies you love, like Lord of the Rings, with its beautiful cinematography and poetic dialogue, or The Matrix, with its carefully choreographed fight scenes. Now, take a look at this.
So in that weekend, I won the science fair and found my prize, a love in Christ.
Well, sweet Jesus.
Sweet Jesus.
Sweet Jesus.
Did you feel the difference? Not only is this bad writing, this is what happens when you force the gospel instead of creating an authentic, emotionally gripping story. And that's why I think it's time we revisited a simple, yet often neglected rule. I'm a Christian filmmaker, and I love movies, and I'm willing to bet you do as well. With a heart for Christ and a love for storytelling, combining faith and film feels natural. After all, why wouldn't we try to combine both? But too many Christian filmmakers stop there, cramming theology into scripts like a kid stuffing chocolate cake onto their plate. This is where you get the stereotypical Christian movie with little character development and a sermon-like approach.
So that's the intro. It's pretty clear cut, to the point. But what's the point you think he's trying to make? Like just with that in that small clip?
Well, if you're going to use a medium to preach the gospel or share the gospel or show the gospel, whatever it is, then use it. I mean, it'd be like anything, building a house. You could either build a house well and put a lot of time and effort into it, or you can just slap together a shack, but you're still building a house.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, but again, it depends on the budget you have. There's building a house. What does that mean? Does that mean building a mansion with $50 million budget? Or does it, does it mean, going to Mexico and building, we used to go build, plywood shacks in Mexico for people who live in a dump. That's the spectrum you get. So it depends on your budget, depends on what you're, the style you're going for, the expectation of the audience, all this, the different things that go into making movies. But you're trying, and another thing we're trying to do is we're trying to redeem a traditionally unredeemed entity, being media, really.
Mm-hmm.
All of media. Since the day one of, I'm sure when radio came out, which was maybe even newspapers, I don't know. But there's always been this kind of slippery slope argument of everyone, it's going to ruin our youth. It's going to ruin our youth. They're just going to be sitting in front of a radio the whole time. Right?
Right.
And then television came. They're just going to be sitting in which I did. I sat in front of the TV all the time when I was a kid, right? And now it's screens, right? It's media, social media, whatever it is. And all these slippery slope arguments have been correct the whole time. I mean, all these old fogies that said, these things were going to happen if we focused on media, we're right. If you look at the state of the family, even from early 1900s until now, it's been completely destroyed, and a lot of it's been destroyed by media. Mm-hmm. So, how do you redeem something? It's a neutral. The television is a neutral thing, but it's been used. You could say it's the tool of Satan, which everyone always said it was. And they're not wrong. It has been. I mean, if you look at the garbage I watched as a kid was nothing compared to the garbage the kids see now, right? And that's
right.
Not coming. Yeah. That's not neutral. That's not just something that the TV is making up itself, right? It's something that people use. So we have these mediums that have been used to such damage, but it's been done so well, right? It's been this gift of creativity we have as made in the image of God, but us as fallen human beings have used that creativity to either blaspheme God or to however you want to put it. So how do you redeem something that's been misused, but it's been misused so well? People
Right.
use this kind of quality, and yet how do you do that without falling into, the same pattern yourself?
Right.
If that makes sense.
You mentioned a good point in the beginning. You mentioned the topic of budget. In the like, you can tell the movie has a small budget. At least you thought you could, because nowadays a lot of Christian movies have massive budgets, and they still look terrible, and the acting is still terrible. The writing is horrible. Why? And movies such as Christian Mingle, God's Not Dead, Fireproof, they're not, again, objectively, they're not bad topics. They're good topics. But
Right.
when you hallmark movie something that could be way more meaningful and way more impactful, and you just make it as a Sunday special, force feeding you the gospel without making you, the viewer, care about what you're seeing. I mean, where is the buy-in? Where is the meaningfulness? Where is the impact? Like when you watch God's Not Dead, again, about a kid challenging his professor, the setting is relatable, sure. The topic is relatable. But at the end of the day, where's the pain? Where's the suffering? Where's the real things that you as a Christian actually have to deal with?
Right.
Does it have a hallmark setting where everything gets what they want and there's happy, joy?
Yeah.
Is a Hallmark movie where the girl gets the guy every time? There's always a dog and a little grandpa telling you, well, listen, here is the lesson.
Yeah.
It follows the same process. And when I see movies like this, I become nauseous. Not at the gospel, at the way it's presented. I'm like, come on, people. It could be delivered so much better. So what does that look like? So the next few clips I'm going to show are from movies that, in my opinion, I think do a really good job at, again, blatantly showing the truth, the gospel, but doing it in a way that's different. And most of the time, darker. So this first clip is from a movie called Nefarious. And the plot is kind of interesting. The whole main movie revolves around this psychologist interviewing this guy in prison. And the story is this guy is like possessed by a demon. And it could have gone really bad. But there's one moment in this movie that actually does a really good job. And this guy, his character is supposed to be a demon, right? And he's supposed to be, trying to make his case to the psychologist. But there's one line here that I thought was really well made. And it puts the gospel right there in front of you. Check it out.
He gave man free will because he wanted his creation's love. But if man isn't free, then the love has no value, does it? So in his needy, selfish, pathetic way, well, he doomed himself from the start.
But if he's God, shouldn't he have known that?
Yes, that's why he had to cheat. My master designed every tool imaginable to destroy every facet of the enemy's creation. We failed because of the carpenter. He was the thorn in our side, our greatest threat. We thought if we could eliminate him, the world would be ours forever. We had no idea of the consequences. The cross was our greatest mistake.
It's right there. It's a small scene, but when you're introducing the gospel to somebody who's not a Christian, who's not a believer, but they have questions, they want to learn more, and you show them a scene like this, what questions could they ask? They're going to say, well, hold on a second, what's he talking about? Who's this carpenter?
Yeah.
And this is different. This is not a cheesy scene from Christian Mingle. This is a different type of environment where you have this guy who represents a demon who works for Satan, saying that everything was fine until God cheated and he sent the carpenter.
Yeah.
I thought that was so different. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I remember this movie actually. We saw it, came out a few years ago. Great actor, by the way. That was the actor that did that. It just did a phenomenal job. But you also have to think who your audience is,
Right.
And if you're looking to market to a Christian audience, then you're going to make nice Christian stuff, because we are commanded in the Bible, whatever is good, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is noble, focus on these things. That's kind of, how do you strike that medium? How do you strike a balance? Because I mean, look at the parables. When you asked me to come up with a scriptural basis for this, it's basically what we're talking about is storytelling. How do you get the most out of your storytelling? Well,
Right.
and what did Jesus do? He uses parables, right?
Right.
And probably the worst one is the parable of the tenants, where an owner, plants a vineyard, sets up a wine press, and then sends his representatives to get his share of the profits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what do the workers of the vineyard do? They beat him, send him back. He sends another one. They beat him. It says they treat him shamefully. Well, what does that mean? I think we know what that means, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the next one they kill. Well, he said, well, I'll just send my son. They'll surely respect my son. And what do the tenants do? They say, oh, here comes the son. We'll kill him. We'll get the inheritance for ourselves. And they kill the son. Well, that's about as violent and twisted a story as you could get. But Jesus uses it to explain this is what the kingdom of heaven is like. And this is also what you did. He's talking to the Pharisees.
Mm-hmm.
This is what Israel has done to me. I have set them up. They're my chosen people. I have chosen to give them my inheritance. And what have they done? Every representative I've sent to them, they have abused and killed. And even now I'm sending my son, and you're gonna kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And you that's a very violent story that makes a gospel point. But the gospel is for people who don't believe. So, but if it's for people who believe, this is going to be, unless they're living in complete sin, and that's your target, is maybe Christians who, aren't living their best Christian life. You can do that. But if you're looking to just, if you're looking to fulfill a need that Christians have, hey, how can I go see a movie that doesn't have violence and nudity and sex scenes? How can I do that? Because we're supposed to not, I had a friend once who went and saw a movie that had a sex scene in it. And this guy was a Christian. He was kind of a baby Christian. He had all that, a kind of past that, he was a bad guy. And he had married this Christian woman, and they had children. And he went to see the movie, the sequel to the 300 movie. And there was a very raunchy sex scene in that movie, and it spiraled him out of control. That one thing just threw him, Satan used that to completely put him into dive right back into his past. It nearly killed his marriage. He ended up sleeping in my house for 2 weeks, and so
all from a movie scene.
All from a movie scene.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
But a lot of movies now, they're rated R, but they should be rated X.
Sure.
This is how far it's gone. So I don't know. I don't know how you strike that balance.
I think
but Jesus used to and so many of his parables are violent, and he used it as this is a real life scenario,
right?
Where I'm going to teach you a lesson from the gospel, and here it is. So I'm still not seeing how we solve the problem, really.
I honestly think that this is a fascinating topic that warrants further discussion, because like what you just told me is interesting, how all that collapsed because of one thing.
Right.
And obviously, there's more to it. Obviously, there's deeper issues, but
But if you're an alcoholic, one drink is all it takes, right?
sure,
Or,
right,
you know?
right.
So
And trying to talk about that balance, I think that's the focus. Like I showed you one example. Another example of a movie that, again, wasn't made by a Christian company, but it does show historical, like an actual historical moment in time when Christians were persecuted horrifically that normally talks about. And that was a movie called Silence. And this movie focuses on the Christian persecutions in Japan and how once Japanese rulers found out you were following Christ, you were persecuted. That's obviously hard to watch.
very hard to watch. Yeah.
But let's be honest here for a second. What's going to stick with you? What makes a more powerful impact? That scene or a scene from God's Not Dead where the kid's debating his professor on God? What has more of an impact?
Yeah.
And what is more real? I'll just say it. What's more real?
Yeah, and
truth.
Yeah, the ultimate example of that would be Passion of the Christ.
Of course, right.
With that movie. And everybody just left the theater going, okay, got the message.
Right.
100% clear. So,
but again, this movie wasn't a Christian movie.
Right.
And yet it showed that short scene gives more of a Christian impact than the majority of Christian films do, which I find very interesting. Now, transition again to another true story from the movie Hacksaw Ridge, the true story of Desmond Doss.
Sergeant Al, Doss is still up there.
Desmond Doss, the guy who, with his own beliefs, chose not to fire a weapon, but instead became a medic and saved countless people in the Pacific during World War II. Won him the Medal of Honor.
What the hell? He's got chaps on his tail.
It's okay, Doc.
You're safe.
It's all right. All right. Desmond. Easy. Whoa. Here, come on. Are you wounded?
So what better exemplifies greater love hath no man than this, that a man give his life for his friends. What film better exemplifies that verse? Is it the Christian movie called Fireproof that was made a long time ago about a guy, struggling with his marriage, but made in a very cheesy way? Or this movie, a true story about a guy who was a firm believer in Christ, who refused to pick up a weapon and yet earned the Medal of Honor because of all the lives he saved. But Joel, this is violent. This is bloody. It's not pretty.
Yeah.
It's gritty. It's dark.
Yeah. No, it is. And he's a little Christ-like in that sense of he's kind of walking in it. I don't know. The imagery there was very interesting, the way he's walking, the way they did it. And it causes conversation, and it does. But I don't know at the end of that how much there was an emphasis on this is what his Christian faith was. And this is how you can too have that same faith, I guess it's up to the individuals who saw the movie interacting with the people, who maybe aren't believers interacting, using that message. There has to be that component too.
Sure. And again, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but Hacksaw Ridge, really good
I've
movie.
seen parts of it, yeah.
But the first big half of the movie isn't even in the war. It's Desmond Doss fighting for his right to serve, but also his faith system. Again, like the true story was he refused to pick up a weapon because he was a firm believer in "Thou shalt not kill," right? And there are so many moments in that movie that are blatantly, here's the gospel, here's my view, and I don't feel comfortable doing this.
Yeah.
What made it such an interesting story is that was the first time in military history where this guy was like, I want to serve, but because of my faith, I can't take a life.
Yeah.
And he fought the courts, he fought the system, and he won. Yeah. And then the second half of the film is him actually in the war.
Yeah.
But the last thing I want to show, I've already shown before on this channel. I think it's the most profound scene from a movie. Sadly, that from Angel Studios, which sadly is not doing so well right now.
Yeah.
But this movie still gets me every time. And of course, it's that scene from Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
Where you have an extremely dark topic, a topic that not many Christians want to talk about because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't fit the Hallmark narrative, right? And yet, when you see scenes like this in film, where the gospel, the power of Christ, God, is clearly shown in your face, but it's not done in a Christian mingle type of way, what do you do with it?
If there is a time to ask if God exists, that would be it. So I did. When God tells you what to do, you cannot hesitate.
So as a recap, the clips I've shown from today were from the movies Nefarious, Silence, Hacksaw Ridge, and Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom. Yeah.
All movies that, in my opinion, find that unique balance between the cringy Hallmark Christian movies and then masterpieces like Lord of the Rings that don't blatantly talk about the gospel but have Christian themes in it. The middle road, we have movies that do blatantly talk about the gospel, but in a way that makes you want to see it, that makes it stick with you, that makes you ask questions, that makes you finish the movie and say, let me think more about this thing called the gospel. Let me look more into this because this is different. I didn't throw up while watching it. I actually got interested.
Yeah. And you know what?
Why?
To wrap it up, it's just this whole topic is the symptoms of the state of the church now. Are we willing to preach the gospel, the offensive gospel, the gospel that makes people uncomfortable,
The dark
gospel that forces
Dark.
them to focus on himself, like the guy in Sound of Freedom, which I was so hoping you play that again because it's such a good.
Yeah.
Or are we going to preach just the gospel light and a feel good thing and get a high from our worship songs and then just have a feel good sermon and then go home feeling, yeah, aren't we special? That's the question. And like I said, this is just a symptom. It's a kind of a reflection of the state of the Christianity in the United States and in the West right now. So,
Right. And again, this topic is something that is fascinating to me. I've always loved movies. I love film. And it's always so refreshing when you see a good movie that has the courage to show the truth in black and white, but do it in a way that is meaningful, that makes you want to watch it again and again and again and not be embarrassed by it. It's like, another Christian movie. Here we go.
yeah.
Anyways, time's up. That went by
Time's
really quickly.
Way up.
All right. Well, as always, God's in charge, and I hope everyone listening and watching took something out of this. Joel, have a great day, sir.
You too.
See you next week.
Thanks for listening, everybody.